He slammed his gavel and barked, "Stand for your sentence!" But her prosthetic leg gave out and she collapsed right there in front of everyone. For a split second, nobody moved. You could hear the hum of the overhead lights, the shuffling of one lawyer's paper. Then a voice rang out, calm, steady, and old. "I stand for Sergeant Navarro." And just like that, the courtroom changed. But hang on. Let me back up a sec. Mira Navarro wasn't supposed to end up in court. Not after 3 deployments, a Bronze Star, and nearly losing her leg to a roadside bomb in Helmand. She was supposed to be working at the VA office in San Antonio, doing what she could to help other vets navigate the system. Instead, she was waking up in a tiny apartment, alone, at 5:30 in the morning, staring at an empty bottle of pain meds and praying her leg wouldn't lock up before sentencing. You see, 3 weeks earlier, her benefits got delayed. Again. 3rd time in under 2 years. So she bought meds, yes, real ones, not street junk, from an old buddy who used to serve with her. And that's when the cops showed up. She didn't even have time to explain, just handcuffed on the spot. Now she's facing a felony charge, standing in front of Judge Harold Greaves, a.k.a. the Gravel Pit. Yeah, that's what they call him behind closed doors. He's been on the bench for 30 years and hasn't smiled since Clinton was president, known for giving out the harshest sentences in Bazar County. Especially if you're not, well, let's just say Mira wasn't his typical ideal citizen. She'd worn her only decent pantsuit, her ribbons neatly pinned, her Purple Heart polished, not because she thought it would help, but because she had dignity. And her public defender, Joel Reyes, he barely glanced at her file, mispronounced her name twice during arraignment. When she asked if he even read her service record, he replied, "It won't matter, not to Greaves." It's hard to explain what that feels like, being invisible in a system you once served to protect. And it didn't help that as she waited for her turn, she watched 3 white defendants walk away with probation for the same charge. One of them had literally been caught with meth in the backseat of his kid's stroller, but they got a speech about second chances. Mira got an eye roll. When her case was called, she limped up slowly, her prosthetic grinding with every step. Judge Greaves didn't even look up. "We don't have all day, Ms. Navarro," he grumbled, loud enough for people in the back to snicker. She paused, straightened herself, and said, "I apologize, Your Honor. My prosthetic is—" "Excuses won't help you now," he snapped. From the gallery someone watched her, an older man with a worn Marine cap. He'd noticed her 5th Infantry Division pin, the way she stood just a little too straight, trying not to shake. He didn't say anything yet, but the look on his face, yeah, it stuck. Her attorney stumbled through a lazy defense, messed up her rank, didn't bring up her VA delay, didn't even mention her protest at the state capitol that week calling for better veteran health care. The prosecutor? She brought in a cherry-picked photo of Mira at the protest, mid-shout, as if that made her dangerous. No audio, no context, just the look of a woman who was tired, in pain, and sick of being ignored. Greaves leaned back and sneered, "Ms. Navarro, do you understand the seriousness of your offense?" And then came the moment. Her prosthetic locked, her whole body stiffened, face pale, hands clenched the rail as she tried to stay upright. She said calmly, "Your Honor, I respectfully request to remain seated. My leg—" He cut her off. "This court will not be manipulated. You will stand for sentencing." She tried, and collapsed. Silence. Then, like it was planned, like it was rehearsed, a single voice broke through. "I stand for Sergeant Navarro." The old Marine rose, slowly, like every vertebrae had seen combat. Then another voice, a young woman, maybe 30s, in a navy hoodie. "I stand for Sergeant Navarro." Then 2 more, then 10, then the entire gallery. Dozens of people, veterans, activists, nurses, a kid in a wheelchair with a VFW patch on his jacket. One by one they stood, while Mira couldn't. Greaves froze, his gavel limp in his hand. He looked around the courtroom, and for the first time in a long time, he looked scared. Not of the people, but of what they saw in him. He cleared his throat, mumbled something about order, then recessed for an hour. By the time EMTs wheeled Mira out, her face was streaked with tears. She wasn't crying from the pain. She was crying because for once, someone stood for her. News spread fast. Stand for Mira started trending. Journalists dug into Judge Greaves's record. Yeah, it turned out Mira wasn't the first. Stats showed that black veterans in his court got nearly double the jail time as white ones. A local reporter named Emilio Cruz even found that Greaves's own son had died of an overdose years ago. Quietly. No public mention. Maybe that's why he was so harsh. Or maybe not. Pain doesn't justify injustice. The Judicial Review Board got involved fast. Mira testified. Clear, calm, devastating. Not just about her case, but about the system, the bias, the silence. Emilio brought charts, spreadsheets, 5 years' worth of data. There was no denying it anymore. Greaves had a pattern. And the final nail? Dr. Elaine Monroe, former VA medical director, took the stand and said flat out, Mira Navarro was criminalized for managing pain caused by service to this country, and denied compassion by the very system she fought to defend. 2 days later, Greaves was suspended for 6 months, ordered into bias training, and every sentence he handed out over the past 5 years was flagged for review. As for Mira, all charges dismissed, with prejudice. She walked, well, limped, but proudly, out of that courthouse a free woman. And not just free in the legal sense, free from shame, from invisibility, from that quiet belief that maybe she didn't matter anymore. She didn't stop there. She started a support group at the local Veterans Hall, weekly meetings for folks like her, forgotten in the bureaucracy. She spoke before Congress, proposed real VA reform with actual teeth. She met with law students, trained public defenders, testified on judicial fairness panels. And funny enough, 1 year later she ran into Greaves at a policy roundtable. He was no longer the judge, just a man. He said, "Trying to be part of the solution now. Long overdue, I know." She looked him in the eye and said, "Then stand, not for me. For all the ones who didn't make it here." He stood. Mira now walks with a better prosthetic, thanks to a VA grant that didn't exist before her case. She no longer hides the limp. She owns it, because it tells a story that changed the law, and maybe, just maybe, reminded people what justice really looks like. So now, let me ask you, what would you have done in that courtroom? Would you have stood? Drop a comment if you believe justice should never depend on your skin color, your rank, or your ability to stand on 2 feet. And if this story moved you, share it. Because sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is stand for someone who can't.